Hello, this is Malorian, and we are with another episode of the Orc Tactical Team. And what we're going to be talking about today is being a bastard. And funny enough, the way I'm going to explain this is by talking about myself. So just jumping right into it, when I started first playing, the way that I got into it was that my wife's cousin needed somebody to play with, and so I started up to play against him. And as we started playing, it really became apparent that he was really in it because he liked the models. I loved it for the actual game and the tactics, and it wasn't long before I was just crushing him every game. And we probably only played a good 6 games before he lost total interest. And I mean, right there, there's being a bastard. But luckily, I phased from going to that group, just playing with him, to playing with another group, which was basically my brother, my cousin, and my cousin's cousin. And this was just 40K at this time, and the four of us, it was a really intense group. We'd meet every single weekend, playing 2 games each every single time, and this was really the toughest of the tough lists. Anything that you could see that would be like a loophole, any way that you could really push, get an advantage, we were going for it all the time. Go for the kill, go for the kill, go for the kill. And we probably played like that for a good 3 years or something, until the group started falling apart, because there's only so many times you can do these rock paper scissors games before you're just like, okay, this army versus that army, who got first turn, okay, now we know how this is going to play out. And it got really tedious. And another funny thing is that cousin's cousin, he played some other armies, right? Like he played something like Crew Mercenaries, which wasn't really as powerful as the really tough ones we were doing. And we would almost be laughing like, oh, we always beat them, ha ha ha. That's just kind of like how this group was. It's ultra competitive. Luckily, though, as this group was falling apart, we were starting to get into fantasy. And again, it was just small, really tough lists, but they kind of didn't really enjoy the game, phased out, and I really grabbed onto it. And that's when I moved on to fantasy. Now, I started off with Bretonians. I grabbed a lot of the strategies right away. And no, it's not just charge. I can get into this later. But anyway, as I started playing, it was just boom win, boom win, boom win. We're talking about 20-game win streaks. And I start being told that oh, you're just winning because you play Bretonians. I started doing the same thing with Ogre Kingdoms and Wood Elves, and it was just winning all the time, until eventually an army that came out that I was thinking about even starting up with my very first army, Vampire, came out. Vampire counts, and I always loved them. The only reason why I went with Bretonians instead of them is because I didn't want to buy a bucket full of skeletons in order to play the army. So with the new models out, I loved it. I bought the army, got into it, and about the same time that the army came out and this was happening is when they started doing tournaments in my area. So after playing with them, getting several wins, I went to the first tournament and I won. Hooray! But one of the things that was starting to become clear from this is that whereas other people might go to a tournament and they're there laughing with their buddies and looking at the cool models and stuff, when I go to these tournaments, I didn't care about anything else. It was always focused on the game. My friends would be off talking somewhere, and I'm going around looking at every single army, trying to decide how am I going to attack it, what am I going to use against this. If I see the person that owns them, I'm talking to them, trying to figure out what type of information I can pull from them to be a tactical advantage. It was just always focused on the game aspect of it. And from this, like even when I won that, there weren't really many cheers when I won that. And some other things started cropping up that made me start really questioning the way I play. Same thing like with my Bretonians. I was looking at 20-game win streaks, and when I'm doing my magic phase, I'm just looking across the table and I'm seeing people just kind of like going blurry-eyed because like, oh man, this is taking forever because there's these huge powerful magic phases that they can't do anything about. I went to another tournament where I just crushed this Ogre Kingdoms player, and looking across, you can see this guy, and he's just in depression, just sitting there watching his army being destroyed, nothing he can do about it. And so those were all kind of, big things that made you question if it's really worth what you're doing. And another thing that happened is on Warseer, I found that Gav Thorpe, he's actually on Warseer, and so I sent him an email because I was doing battle reports for all my vampires, and I asked him, like, oh, have you read my battle reports? What do you think about them? And I was ecstatic when I got a reply back saying, oh, I don't usually look at those, but I'll give them a look. So I kind of waited and waited, and I never got a reply. And, like, there could be many reasons for it, but the thing with that I think would be obvious is that here I am playing a very power gamey army with lots of power dice crushing everyone, and someone from Gang Workshop is not going to say, oh yeah, that's great, that's the way we want to see things done. So I was really starting to see that it wasn't really fun for others when I was playing with this army. And probably the best thing that ever happened for me is when I was starting to get angry when people were saying that orcs can't win because they suck, and so I decided to go to that army. I sold off a bunch of my 40k, bought an orc army, started playing with them. I wasn't doing as well as I did with my vampire counts, but I was still winning. But the thing that was really starting to become apparent from that is I was having a lot more fun. The big thing with orcs is that thanks to things like animosity and you're not immune to psychology, stuff like that, is that there's really some things that are out of your control, right? You can have a perfect battle plan, but then all of a sudden this unit fails animosity, this one runs up, and everything's thrown up. So you really just have to kind of live for the moment instead of having this grand scheme. And so all of a sudden, whereas before when I was going to tournaments, I'm just strategizing all the time and it's just all cutthroat. All of a sudden I was going there, I was having more fun. As before, I might be trying to be nice to my opponent and smile and stuff just for sportsmanship scores. Now I truly was having fun, joking with my opponents. People were coming over to see my orc horde and saying, oh wow, what a great army it was, as opposed to my vampire army where people would walk by and roll their eyes type thing. So, it really started changing the way I played. And a big thing that I found too is that when I was playing vampire counts, it was getting to the point that people just did not want to play against me. And even today, even though I've been playing for years now, where I'm now a friendly gamer, people see me and they see me as this power gamer. They don't even want to have a game against me whatsoever. So, you're probably asking, okay, that's great. There's your life story. What does this have to do with tactics? And the real thing that I want to say about this is that you can be the greatest general in the world. You can be the greatest Warhammer player in the world. But the problem is that if you don't have anyone to play against, what does it matter? So all the time you might know that this tactic would be great, this combination would be perfect, but all the time you have to keep that in balance, knowing who am I playing against, am I going to be seen as a bastard, are they going to want to have another game with me? And it's one thing if it's a tournament and you're shooting for oh, I got to get that trophy, but otherwise, with your gaming group and even at tournaments, right, if you want these people to want to if you see this person in the next tournament, you want to have these people booing you and rolling their eyes at your army, right? You want to have a good time. You're playing Warhammer to have fun. So I've gone through before and I've talked about all the different levels of tactics, and just to reiterate again, it doesn't matter how good you are if nobody will play against you. So that's my story. That's how I went from a hardcore power gamer to a person that I'm still a good gamer, and I'll just do it with other armies now. That's all, and I'll play against people, and they have more fun. So that's it. That's all I want to say about that. And my next episode is going to be about draw tactics. So I hope to see you then. Bye.